For the longest time, I believed I was a good husband, the kind of man who trusted easily, who gave the benefit of the doubt. I never felt the need to question my wife's every move or snoop through her phone. Love, to me, meant trust, and I thought that was enough. Vanessa, my wife, wasn't a bad person. She was charming, full of life, the kind of woman who could walk into a room and turn every head without even trying. But she had a habit, one I ignored for far too long. She liked to test limits, push boundaries, just to see how far she could go before I reacted. At first, it was small things. Overspending on things we didn't need. Staying out later than she said she would. Harmless, I told myself. Nothing worth making a fuss over. But over time, I started noticing something else. A quiet challenge in her eyes, as if she were waiting to see if I would ever stand up for myself. And then there was Jake. I knew his type. I had seen it before. He was Vanessa's friend, or so she claimed. But he wasn't just anyone. He was her ex. And no matter how much time had passed, one thing was clear. Men like him didn't just linger in the background without a reason. They waited. They bided their time, wearing the mask of a friendly, supportive companion, hoping for the perfect moment to slip back in. I told Vanessa more than once that I didn't trust him. I wasn't a jealous man, not by nature. But every time I brought it up, she waved me off. You're overthinking it. He's just a friend, Richard. Stop being so insecure. Honestly, he's like a brother to me. The classic lines, the same tired reassurances. And for years, I let it go, but trust has its limits. And one day, she was about to find out exactly where mine ended. It was a quiet evening. We were sitting in the living room, the soft hum of the television filling the space between us. She was scrolling through her phone, casually chatting about her day, when she dropped it into conversation as if it were just another piece of news. Some of my old friends are planning a weekend trip, a beach house in the Bahamas. It'll be fun, just catching up, relaxing, reliving the old days. On the surface, it sounded innocent. I had never been the type to control where she went or who she spent time with. We had always valued our independence, our ability to live our own lives while sharing them together. But then, she said something that made my stomach tighten. Jake's going too. The moment his name left her lips, I knew this wasn't just casual conversation. There was something deliberate in the way she said it, a slight pause, like she was waiting to see if I would object, if I would tell her not to go. And that's exactly what she wanted. For years, I had warned her about Jake. Not out of paranoia, but out of understanding. I knew men like him. I had seen this game played before. He wasn't just a harmless friend. He was a man who had been waiting for an opportunity. But this time, I didn't react the way Vanessa expected. I didn't argue. I didn't remind her why Jake was a problem. I didn't list the countless times I had let things slide before. I simply looked at her, my voice calm and steady. If you go, don't bother coming back. She blinked at me, caught off guard, and then she laughed. God, Richard, you're so dramatic. She rolled her eyes, smirking like I was being ridiculous. Then came the usual defenses, the same line she always used. You're overreacting. Jake's just a friend. You need to stop being so insecure. I didn't fight. I didn't raise my voice. Do what you want, I said simply. And I meant it. She thought I was bluffing, just like she always did. The morning of her trip, she moved around the house as if nothing had changed, humming to herself as she packed, carefully folding her clothes, pausing now and then to check her phone, probably responding to the group chat about the trip. Every so often, she glanced at me, expecting me to say something, to remind her of what I had told her. But I didn't. When she was done, she wheeled her suitcase to the front door, then walked over to me. Leaning down, she pressed a quick kiss to my cheek, just like she always did before leaving for any trip. Love you, she said, her tone light, dismissive, as if my warning 2 days ago had never happened. Then, without a second thought, she grabbed her keys and walked out the door. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. I just watched from the window as she tossed her suitcase into the trunk of the taxi, slid into the passenger seat, and disappeared down the road. The moment she was gone, I picked up my phone. It was time to set things in motion. The locksmith arrived within the hour. By midday, Every lock in the house had been changed. The keys Vanessa carried in her purse? Useless. She would return expecting everything to be as she left it, only to find a locked door and a life that no longer welcomed her. Next, her belongings. I walked into our bedroom, my eyes settling on her side of the closet, the vanity cluttered with expensive perfumes, the drawers filled with neatly folded clothes. One by one, I packed it all. Her dresses, her shoes, her carefully arranged makeup, every trace of her presence in my home, boxed and labeled, ready for delivery to her parents' house. I wanted her to have no reason to come back, not even to pick up a forgotten sweater. And finally, the last step, the divorce papers. I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. "I'm ready," I told him. "Make it official." There was no hesitation, no second guessing, no regret. For years, Vanessa had believed she could test my limits, push the boundaries, and I would always forgive. She thought she had me figured out, that I would grumble, maybe give her the silent treatment. But in the end, I would let it go. But this time was different. This time, I was done. For the rest of the day, I moved through the house with quiet purpose. The home we had once shared felt lighter, freer. The weight of doubt, of mistrust, of years spent ignoring my instincts, gone. By the time I went to bed that night, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Vanessa thought she was going on a fun getaway. She had no idea that when she returned, her world would be completely different. She had made her choice. Now, she would have to live with it. The soft glow of my phone screen illuminated the darkroom, pulling my attention to a notification. The security camera at the front door had detected movement. Curious, I opened the live feed. There she was. Vanessa stood on the porch, bags at her feet, a casual air about her as if she were returning from just another trip. She reached for the doorknob, turned it with the ease of someone expecting to step inside the life she had walked away from. But the door didn't budge. She frowned, tried again, then again, and again. I watched as confusion spread across her face, her brows knitting together as realization crept in. She leaned in closer, inspecting the lock. And in that moment, it hit her. It had been changed. Her hand flew to her phone, and seconds later, mine began to ring. I let it buzz a few times before answering. "Richard," she breathed, her voice already shaking. "The door won't open." I kept my tone calm, detached. "You don't live here anymore." Silence. I could hear her breathing, shaky, uneven, struggling to process the weight of those words. "Your things are at your parents' house," I continued, my voice as steady as ever. "Expect the divorce papers in a week or two." More silence. Then, when she finally spoke again, the desperation bled through. "Richard, please, wait, let me just..." I ended the call before she could finish. Within seconds, my phone buzzed again. Her name flashed across the screen. Once, twice, 3 times. I ignored every single one. When the calls went unanswered, the messages started. "Richard, please, talk to me. I messed up. I'm so sorry. It's not what it looks like." I sat there, staring at my phone as the notifications piled up. But I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. I just felt nothing. This was the same woman who had laughed in my face when I told her not to go. The same woman who had kissed me goodbye, so sure I wouldn't do a damn thing about it. And now she was begging. Another message popped up. "Please pick up. There's something I need to tell you." I checked the security feed again. Vanessa was pacing the porch, her face flushed, hands shaking. She looked frantic, running her fingers through her hair, probably wondering how things had spiraled so fast. Then the messages stopped. Instead, a voice note appeared. I hesitated for a moment before playing it. The moment her voice came through, I knew this wasn't just guilt. This wasn't regret. This was fear. "Richard, please listen to me. You were right about Jake. I should have listened to you. I swear, I never expected any of this to happen." She took a shaky breath, her words tumbling out between sobs. "I drank too much, and when I woke up, something happened. Jake recorded it. His blackmailing me." Her breath hitched, and I could hear the sheer panic in her voice. I didn't want you to find out like this. I didn't know what to do. Please, Richard, I need you. I sat there, listening, letting her desperation fill the silence of my home. She was scared now, not just because she had made a mistake, but because she had lost control. The man she had trusted had betrayed her. And now, she wanted me to pick up the pieces. Once, maybe I would have. Once, I might have let my heart soften, convince myself that love meant forgiveness. But that man, the one who ignored his instincts, who let himself be disrespected over and over again, was gone. I typed out one last message. Enjoy your life. Vanessa, you made your choice. Now live with it. Then I blocked her. That was it. The final page in a story I should have ended long ago. I never looked back, never checked in to see how she was doing, never asked mutual friends for updates. She had spent years believing she could test my limits, that I would always forgive. She was wrong. From what I heard, it didn't take long for her life to fall apart. Her parents weren't happy. They didn't know all the details, but they knew enough. They knew she had walked out of a good marriage, that she had ignored my warning, that she had returned to find herself locked out of the life she thought she still had. Her father was furious. He had always respected me, seen me as a steady man who took care of his daughter. Now, he was forced to take her in because she had nowhere else to go. Her friends weren't much better. A few of them reached out, trying to justify what had happened. Richard, she's really sorry. You don't have to end things over one mistake. At least hear her out. I ignored every single one. They weren't the ones who had to live with her choices. I was. And then there was Jake, the man she had risked everything for. The moment he realized there was trouble, he vanished. When Vanessa started talking about how he had recorded her without consent, he knew exactly what that meant. He ghosted her completely. The man she had chosen over me wouldn't even answer her calls. And so, there she was, alone, humiliated, full of regret. Meanwhile, I moved on. I focused on my work, my life, my future. I refused to waste a single second wondering if she missed me, if she had finally realized how badly she had messed up. But deep down, I already knew. Some mistakes can't be undone. Some choices have consequences you can't escape from. Vanessa thought I was bluffing. She thought I was making an empty threat. She was wrong. Some lessons in life come softly, like a gentle nudge, steering you in the right direction. Others, they come like a storm, shaking the very foundation beneath your feet. This wasn't just a story about betrayal. It was a story about boundaries, about knowing when enough is enough. For years, I had ignored the warning signs, convincing myself that trust meant turning a blind eye, that love meant patience, even when patience was mistaken for weakness. But trust is a two-way street, and respect should never have to be demanded. Vanessa thought she could keep pushing, that the limits I set were flexible, negotiable. But life is a way of teaching us that some lines, once crossed, can never be redrawn. And when someone shows you, time and time again, that they don't respect you, don't value what you bring to the table, the hardest, bravest thing you can do is walk away. Because knowing your worth isn't just about what you're willing to give. It's also about what you refuse to accept.